Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Julie's Orchids. Today, we're going to do a quick little repot. You guys might remember back in February, I did a little mini haul. I'll put a link to that in the description below and up in the corner. But I got this beautiful little BLC Morning Glory, and it's potted in stuff I don't like, and it's making new roots. So this is the perfect time to repot this little plant. So we've got on the table before you what we're going to use for this repot today. We have our pre-sterilized scissors, the pot it's going to go in, some pure plain reverse osmosis water. There's nothing in it, no nutrients, it's just RO water. A bowl for the water technique to keep the existing roots a little bit less damaged from the pumice falling on them. And today we're going to be using our 7 to 20 millimeter sized pumice with a top dressing of decorative river stones. And the first thing we need to do is to get this plant out of that horrible setup, the roots cleaned up, and let's get to it. As you can see, just merely sliding the tray over to a working position on the table, that this pot just fell over. Now, it's going to be really easy to get out of the pot, as you can see. But what I want to point out is, and you've heard me sort of bellyache and wince about the way this particular plant is potted up. This is strictly my personal preference, but it's in mostly styrofoam. Now, the grower I got this from is a very, very good grower, and they have a big setup in their yard. They've got glass houses, they've got shade houses, they've got built-in misters, they've got humidity control and climate control. They've got, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of setup for their orchids. They have, I don't know how many orchids in their collection, but they're definitely a far more advanced grower than I am. But for their growing conditions, this setup obviously works for them. For my growing conditions, this setup does not, for multiple reasons. It's wobbly. There's no weight to the bottom of this pot to counterbalance the weight of the foliage up top. Plus, it's in styrofoam, and I just personally dislike styrofoam. I primarily pot most of my plants up in pumice. So let's go ahead and get this thing going, because we've got new root nubbins coming off this new growth. We've got a new root nubbin there and coming up right over there. And this is going to be the perfect time to do something with this plant, so I don't have to worry about it falling over on the shelves anymore. Now, this is Saturday morning and it is watering day, and no, I have not watered this plant yet. Maybe I should have, to get the roots maybe a little bit less stuck to the styrofoam. I'm seeing that there's visibly a lot of root death because I've struggled with this one in the few months that I've had it, because as I mentioned, I don't have automatic misters set up in my grow room that spray every however often the grower did here. So this setup works for them, not for me. And that's the trick with growing, is you have to figure out how to work with your environment, how to grow the plants that you can, what setups you can use. And it's a lot of trial and error. But if you do your due diligence and do your research on the plant, find a YouTube grower that grows in a climate similar to yours and follow them and see what they do. There's a lot of good channels out there. Just have a look around. But we'll go ahead and get started and pull this one out of its pot and see what the roots are actually looking like. All right, so we'll just kind of do that. And oh yeah, this is what I was afraid of, that this was just pretty well only in styrofoam. As I mentioned, I'm going to mention again, I don't like styrofoam. Now these little roots here are dead. They're very not alive. And you know, a lot of this is because of the change in growing conditions from this plant. Like that one's still alive, but a lot of these over here they're just dead. So I'm going to cut most of these dead ones off. I'm going to leave a few of the dead ones on to, oh, look at that. Yeah, I'm going to leave a few of the dead ones on to provide an anchor for the pot, the plant in the pot, so that it's, again, not wobbly because it's quite a tall plant. And these kind of plants tend to fall over, and it's not good for those new growing root tips. So we're just going to continue to sort of gently pick these away. And that one, a dead root has grown through it, but that root's dead, so I'm fine with pulling that off. And yeah, I just really don't like the styrofoam. It's messy. It's, in my opinion, not good for the environment to use. What am I going to do with it? The unenvironmentally healthy thing and throw them away. But you know, hey, it is what it is. I wouldn't have put a plant in this, but I also wasn't going to turn down purchasing this plant because the flowers on it are absolutely stunningly beautiful. All right, that's a nice alive root right here. And a little piece of bark right there. Okay, so as you can see, we're kind of to the point now where there's just a mess of these dead roots that are just kind of tangled up in that big chunk of styrofoam there. And I don't want that in my pot. If I can get that out of there at all, I'm going to. So I am going to start trimming off these papery dead roots, or maybe just pull them off, because they're making it difficult to get those chunks out. Now I'm going to try to be very careful of that root right there and those two in the middle. So I'm just going to come between the two. Let's see if I got it. Yes, I did. Good. And there's another one right in there. And again, I'm just going to be very careful. And I don't think I actually, oh, I did get that one nipped. And we can pull this one out. And I'm going to get this one as close to the base of the plant as I possibly can. And now let's just see if we can't pull that out. And okay, yeah, this is what I thought was going on here. So we've got some dead roots that have grown completely through this piece of styrofoam. And I can see that that root is right there. So I'm going to get that out of there. All right. Now that makes it a little tiny bit easier to see what we're working with. And yeah, there's just a whole bunch of just desiccated dry roots because, yeah, like I said, I don't have the thousands and thousands of dollars worth of outdoor growing setup with the automatic timed sprayers and misters and things in my grow space. Obviously, I grow in my home. I can't have those sort of things. And that's why I grow in pumice, because it holds on to the humidity and moisture, sort of helping to create a little microclimate in and around the pot. Yeah, these ones here are a bit difficult because they're so close to this one good root we've got growing through there. I want to pull these down and out of the way. Very nice. So these ones here are alive. This one's actually growing. And if these styrofoam pieces don't come off super easily, I'm leaving them. And by super easy, I mean that one's not coming off super easy. Neither is that one, so they're staying put. So I've got these living roots here. Got a little piece of bark right there. And again, if that doesn't come off that root there super easy, I'm leaving it. I'll pull some of these sheaths off. Now I do want to clean these up a little bit, but boy, that is pretty close. So I'm just going to gently pull that away. There we go. And again, I'm trying to be really very careful of these growing root tips right there, which is why if these styrofoam pieces don't come off super easy, they're staying put. And that's a living root. And oh, thank you for styrofoam for coming off easy. Now, that's a good root there. That one's a pretty good root there. We've got some dead ones back here. Of course, that's to be expected. This is the oldest part of the plant. That one is dead right there. So I'm going to go ahead and trim that gently right there. Now these ones on this root's good here. That one's okay. And these ones are dead from that little black spot down. So I'm going to trim those off right there. I'm going to trim these off right through here. This is where I've damaged the velamen, so I'm just going to go ahead and trim that off, just right there. And this is what I'm going to leave on the plant. I'm not forcing these little bits of styrofoam off. If they come off easily, they come off. Actually, this one I'm going to cut off because you can see I've bent that root and broken that little bit right there. And this one has grown through the styrofoam. But this is just what we're going to do here. Now, again, I don't want to clean this up too much because I don't want to risk injuring that. So I'm quite happy with what we've got here. Again, I'm going to leave this sheath on because I'm afraid I'll be damaging things down into here if I take it off. So I'm just going to set this aside and we're going to take a moment and clean up all of these dead roots and styrofoam. And I'll be right back with you. So again, I'm going to use the water bath technique, and I'm using this actually Kmart tumbler that I poked holes in. It's been used before, but I've cleaned it, washed it in some bleach, and I think it's a good size for what we have to hold it for a bit. I don't want much bigger of a pot, but I would have liked a slightly bigger one. I just don't have one that size. And again, we're just going to go plain reverse osmosis water. Again, when I pot these up, I try to keep the holes to the back, and with the way this is growing, I'm going to put it sort of center in the back, center in the pot this way, but closer to the back where the old part of the rhizome is back here, so it hopefully can fill out this portion of the pot. And I'll try to show you what I mean by that. All right, so back here is the oldest part of the plant, and it's coming off this way. So I'm just going to gently try to coax these roots in. Like I said, I wish I had a slightly larger pot, but I don't, so this is just going to have to work. We'll give it some more water. And as you can see, I'm hoping that it will, if I angle it like that, grow out this way and fill in this part of the pot. Now I am going to give it kind of a dip down into the pot here because it kind of has a creeping rhizome. And I want these root tips a little tiny bit above so I don't damage them, and then they can grow down into the substrate. And I'm going to apologize again. I've got dry pumice, so it's going to float a little bit, but the whole point of the water bath is to let the bigger pieces of pumice sort of fall down among the roots more gently than if I was just dropping them in without the water. Now this is dry pumice, so it's floating a little bit, but that's the whole point of this, is I want the pumice to sort of gently fall between the roots that are there and let them just sort of drain out like that. And you'll see they'll kind of, with a little bit of a shake and a shimmy here, they'll sort of fill in around the roots a little bit. We've got a little bit of a hole right here, but that's okay because we'll just put it back into the water. And the water is back filling into the cup by the holes in the back. So I know that there was a little bit of need for some pumice right back here. So my next handful of pumice is going to go in this little back area. And I am going to give it a gentle push down and try to coax these pieces underneath the rhizome. And let's give it another draining and see how we're filling in. So it looks like that's covering that little air gap hole that was created. We can see the roots are down here quite nicely in the pot. Could use a little bit of a fill in back here. So again, we're just gonna let it fill back in. And I am gonna lift out of the pot a little bit and bring it just a touch forward. And we're gonna drop some of the pumice directly behind that rhizome. Give it a little poke. All right, now we'll come back. Kind of get it where we wanted it with the good. And again, as it's going down, I just sort of shake it a little bit. And let's look back here. That's very good. So we've got that nice growing root tip, and there's not too much of an air gap. Now, what I'm going to do is get a couple of decorative river stones, and I'm going to put around the back of this oldest part of the rhizome to A, help support it, and B, help keep that back part of the rhizome a little bit more dry so we don't get any rot. And I'm going to let the water drain out of this for a second, and just to place the stones, we'll kind of come over here. So I'm going to just place them right there, if that's good, because I don't want this area back here to get and maintain a whole bunch of wetness. So just right back here where this rhizome is at, I'm dropping a few non-porous river stones. And I'm not doing it on this side because you can see we've got roots there, but you can see how I've covered it here. And now you can see that this plant is actually more stable in the pot. So we'll put it back into the water bath and continue filling. Let me flush some of these out. And again, we're just letting it naturally fill back in from the holes, the drainage holes in the bottom of the pot. All right, that's good there. And like I said, I wish I had a slightly larger pot to put this in, but I just don't. So this is just going to have to work. I think I'll maybe be able to get another year out of this size of this pot. We'll just have to wait and see. Now, we've gone and reached the point of, I've got not a big enough bowl for the plant. So the rest of this is going to have to be gently placed by hand, because as you can see, my water level is not quite high enough. So we'll just let this drain out. Yeah, that looks pretty all right to me. And we'll just come over here. We'll get that out of the way. And again, I'm just very gently putting a little bit of these pieces right here. I'm going to attempt to get some in that opening here. We're just being very gentle with it. Now that's about all the more pumice I'm going to put into this. The rest of it I'm going to put in some non-porous decorative riverstone, and that's to help with the top layer of pumice staying moist, keep some of the humidity in, and it will also help to stabilize a little bit of the wobbliness of this plant until those new roots grow down into the pot better and give it a bit more of an anchor. And again, like I said, these here are just non-porous river stones. Now I want to cover that ugly piece of styrofoam with some river stones just because I don't like the way it looks. I know. Picky, right? Yep. And again, I want to drop some of these stones right back here by that smallest pseudobulb from its seedling days. And there you have it. BLC Morning Glory is in her new home. And we're going to give it a watering. And then we're done with this one for the day. Now I'm pretty certain that this nice root is going to die off. These roots here are going to die off because Cattleya alliances don't particularly like to be repotted. But that's okay because we've got that new root getting ready to head right down into the pumice, as well as that one. There we have it, guys. BLC Morning Glory repot transition from styrofoam to pumice with a decorative top dressing of non-porous river stones. I thank you guys so much for watching. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up. A subscribe would be great. And everyone have a fabulous day.